I decided to break up with Julia. We've been through a lot together. She had recently lost her father, and I had gone through a rough patch a year ago. The decision wasn't easy for me, but our relationship was over. Anticipating her tantrums and a sea of tears, I could not tell her in person, so I decided it was better to talk about it on the phone. I went to bed, saving the call for morning, leaving my cell phone in the other room on the nightstand by the window. In the morning, there were shards of the phone all over the room, and a string of wet footprints led from the front door. They went straight through the kitchen into the room with the phone and ended at the window. I changed my locks and was afraid of any shadow for a week. Julia's daily care was annoying. I couldn't help it. I yelled at her all the time, and she ran away crying, and I felt better. This went on for several days, and one evening the doorbell rang. I was about to open it, but, confused by the new locks, I heard water dripping quietly. The doorbell rang again, and I stood listening to the water dripping outside the door, as if my guest had come in after a hard rain. It was a hot summer day outside, and it hadn't rained in a week. I took a step away from the door. A large puddle began to gather on the carpet in the hallway. Trying to breathe as quietly as possible, I stood and waited. But nothing else happened. More than a month passed, and I calmed down, writing it all off as nerves. I didn't see Julia, telling her that I needed to be alone. She called several times, but I didn't answer. One day, on my way back from work, I saw Julia in the crowd. She was standing at the bus stop, nervously looking around. Apparently, having lost hope of talking to me on the phone, she decided to ambush me. I turned to cross the road and get lost in the crowd, but my father-in-law was standing on the other side of the road. All wet, covered in swamp mud, with swollen skin and puffy eyes. When they found him, I went to the lineup with Julia's brother. To be honest, I don't remember the whole procedure very well. He had been in the river for 2 weeks. The skin on his face was partially peeled off, and what was left was hanging down in white chunks. He was identified by his tattoos and an iron plate in his arm, left over from a fracture. As the police explained to us, his boat had simply capsized. He stood in the crowd and looked at me. People walked by, not paying any attention to him. My phone rang. The number wasn't in my address book, but the last digits were familiar. Julia often called from it if she ran out of money on her phone. The dead man nodded at me, and I picked up the phone. I remembered the rest vaguely. A barely audible voice in the receiver whispered something. At times he gurgled, as if his mouth were full of water, and slapped his swollen, torn lips. At one point I couldn't stand it, threw the tube against the pavement, and screamed. The last words I heard on the phone were, "Don't upset her." I don't remember how I got home, but I packed up my papers, took my laptop, minimal belongings, and left. I moved to another town, where no one knew me, and started a new life. I lived maybe a month or two, and then he found me. One morning I opened my eyes and saw that the apartment was flooded. There was water all over the floor, and he was standing by the bed. When he saw that I was awake, he grabbed me. I remember being hit by the smell of mucus. I tried to pull away, my hand sliding across his face, and one of the pieces of skin stuck in my fingers. I blacked out. When I woke up, the floor was dry, but there was one word written on the wall. "Come back." Written in wet streaks like black paint. I went back, apologized to Julia, and my father-in-law stopped bothering me. Only sometimes, when I found myself by a large body of water, I felt as if someone was watching me. A year went by. I calmed down, stopped sitting at home when it rained outside, stopped jumping up from splashing water. And then yesterday Julia told me that it was time to formalize our relationship. I mumbled that I wasn't ready yet, and that we needed to wait until we were on our feet. She got upset and went off to her mom's house. This morning my father-in-law came out of the tub, sat at the table with me in the kitchen, and started playing with my wedding ring. Behind him I saw the bathroom full of water. I knew from the look on his face what would happen to me if I didn't do what he wanted.